welcome to An Outside View. I'm your host, Dick Sicaro, and joining me tonight is my co-host, Ron Matta.
How do you do, Dick?
How are you, Ron? Thanks for joining,
super.
as you usually do. And also, we have Scotty Hall as a guest. Scott, usually on the other side of the camera, is our production manager and sound man and editing and everything else. But tonight, you're in this seat because you are one of the 13 candidates to announce for council at large in the city of Brockton. So we
Yes.
have a primary on September 22nd, and then I believe it's November 3rd, the final election? So the
Yes.
top 8 vote getters in the runoff will proceed beyond the primary to the November election. So let's start off with telling the people a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into some specific issues and your viewpoints and your political stances on those issues.
So, I've sort of always followed politics since I was a teenager. I'm a computer programmer by trade. I've got about 15 years of professional experience programming primarily databases. I've done website design. I do a lot of video. I've paid attention to a lot of the issues in the city from behind the camera lens, and something inside of me just says, why not pull your papers for council at large and offer my services to the constituency of Brockton? Basically that.
And like Ron and myself, you've been a city activist as well, and you've fought many battles with us at City Hall against higher taxes, against
Can I just say
unfair
this?
water bills.
Can I just say this
Sure.
real quick? Steve, thanks. The tax rates are ridiculous. That's all.
Right.
Didn't mean to cut you
So
off.
we're against higher taxes. We started Brocktonians for limited taxation, and we're outspoken critics against the inside political deals, the D-cell plant that's cost us about $45 million to date. And they want to purchase it now for $88 million. But we are leaving the city, Ron and myself, as you know, shortly. But hopefully people like you will continue to fight for what's best for the people. So we appreciate you running for office. We wish you the best of luck. So let's get into some of the questions. As you know, there's some controversial items out there. It seems like the city's divided down the middle. I mean, as you know, the casino just barely passed on a referendum, I think about 143 votes,
Yep.
correct, Ron?
Yep.
143 more voters wanted it than didn't want it. They never put the power plant out for a referendum. Maybe they should, I don't know. And a couple other people have mentioned putting the desalinization plant to a vote if the city should buy it. So let's get your stances on a couple things with the power plant, the casino, the desal plant, if the city should purchase it or not, and how you feel about those. That seems to be, and crime obviously, and taxes are probably, and infrastructure are our biggest issues with the city we're faced with.
Crime's out of control. It's definitely a pressing issue right now. The power plant, I don't think it makes sense, as a business that would generate revenue. I think there's better ways to generate power, and also I think we should be focusing on things like battery technology and being able to store energy better and more efficiently and distributing it more efficiently. The power plant just doesn't seem like a real good idea, with everybody these days getting cancer and the carcinogens and the municipal water supplies. It just doesn't seem feasible from an environmental standpoint and an economical standpoint. Like, is it actually a viable business in the long run, even if it did get created? I also talked to the constituency, and a lot of people seem to say, Yeah, I'm for it, but I don't think it's in a good area. The Campello district is heavily industrialized as it is, and this is just more static in the area. It doesn't seem like a win-win. That's just my current standpoint on it. If, you know, the desal plant sounds like a total scam right now. $45 million. I mean, it's forcing me to just like reach into my pocket, take all the money I have, and just throw it in the air. You know, like, there's my money. You just took my money. You happy? Hope
Right.
you're happy.
I hope that cameraman got that. That was a good visual there.
So, what's the other issue?
The other issue would be the
The casino,
The
that-
casino.
Now, before you started, I heard today on the radio that the Indians are going to get one in Taunton, which I think will eliminate Brockton,
Right, right.
because they're not going to put 3 casinos within a 40-mile
Yeah.
radius of each other.
Yeah, it seems like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Even Steve Wynn that owns Caesar's Palace and Wynn Casino's having trouble getting his casino in Everett that was voted on a year or two ago because some environmental issue, I don't know, some special seaweed, grass there, you can't disturb the natural environment, and I seriously doubt it's gonna come to Brockton either. I mean, the people just barely voted for it by
And also
143 votes.
The Attorney General came out and said we don't need a
Right,
casino in
yeah.
southeastern Mass.
And I think there's a whole question of if casinos are that profitable. I think, I was just reading somewhere, I believe in Atlantic City, that the state had to take the casino. They went bankrupt.
Yeah, there was one.
And Mohegan Sun and MGM Grand actually in Foxwoods having difficulty meeting their debt service.
Yeah,
They
they-
put too much money into it and they can't meet their debt service and pay the bondholders.
Well, I know one casino in Atlantic City, they spent $1 billion building it, and it's closed.
Yeah.
I went there, I was there last year. And very impressive. I mean, beautiful building,
Right.
but there's just
Yeah,
too many.
and
There's
the-
too many of them.
Right, and
That's
the
the
last
problem.
thing the city needs is another albatross and have the taxpayers bail it out, just like they did the desal plant, that we're not using the water. We paid, again, $45 million to date. The mayor wants to buy it for $88 million now. And as we all know, we've been through the numbers, it's way too expensive to buy, and then no one would purchase the water from us anyway, and they can't sell it to the power plant if the power plant comes in because it's potable water and they can't sell drinking water.
Yeah,
So
but
they're hoping the council will approve if the mayor continues to pursue the power plant wastewater.
So what they can do with the desal plant is not purify it enough to be drinking water
Right,
and then sell it to the power plant. But the cost is absolutely beyond control. I mean, there's just no way you can make it economical for the power plant to buy that water.
right.
It's just too expensive, way too expensive.
Yeah. Now, getting back to Scott, you're a lifelong resident of the city. You grew up in the village section of the city, correct?
Yes, the Lithuanian village. I'm half Lithuanian, or Jago, as people.
Right. And the
Call
part
it.
and the party you're affiliated with, you're a Republican
Yeah,
Party,
one of the-
as our people's mayor is Mr. Matta.
Yeah.
As we all know, Brockton is nonpartisan, so it's in this case it'll be the top 8 vote getters that'll move on to the final election. And you've taken some great videography. I've seen some of your films that you produce. One was great on Aquaria and the desal plant.
One of the videos I just recently shot, I went up to the east and west Monponzit area and took video of algae in my hands, and you know, I find it very interesting. I think it was in May that we drained those ponds so we could suck up more water, and
Right.
it seems now there's an algae overgrowth, and I believe Monday, August 24th,
Right.
they were putting chemicals into the water to destroy the algae overgrowth, and because it, you know, creates poisonous material. And they basically said to all the residents, they posted everywhere, don't drink the water for a day, probably not a week. And
Right.
I'm wondering why that issue isn't being covered, why there's no talk about it, you know.
The reason is it's not advantageous to the city government. That's why you
Right.
don't. They're not gonna talk about anything that's negative to the city. It's been like that for years.
Right.
Well, Halifax, the town of Halifax has a water ban in effect starting September 1st of this year, and I'm wondering how much of that has to do from over usage, you know? Like,
Right.
how much water did we, you know, excuse my French, piss away when that water pipe wasn't maintained?
Yeah, well, the interesting fact about that, the desalinization plant, we all know, was mandated by the state several years ago to be an alternative water supply if needed. Our primary water supply is Silver Lake, and when they shut down both pipes that provide water to Brockton, where they didn't really have to, they could have, that's why you have two pipes, shut down one, they couldn't find the shut-off valves. So that should have kicked in immediately, desalinization plant water. But the city went out and spent thousands of dollars in purchasing of bottled water to provide the residents. So I don't know what's going on in that plan. There was an interesting meeting that we were all at just last week, and we all said our piece there, and it was well attended, and the media was there, and one gentleman in the crowd actually want to pay for outside legal services, what we've been preaching all along, to get out of this contract due to non-performance. And he even volunteered to pay for it. So if the city comes up and says, well, we don't have any more legal fees or to pay legal fees in our budget, here's a private citizen that's willing to, he's committed, willing to spend his own money,
Well, we,
pay for outside legal
me and
counsel.
another fella, back in 2011, showed them where they could get out of the contract.
Right,
And they just won't do it, because there's a 13% ownership other than the Korean company. And nobody seems to know. It's Bluestone Energy, but nobody knows who.
right. Well, supposedly, I asked that question, and
Yeah.
it was the president of Bluestone,
Yeah.
Peter Fairbanks,
Yeah.
is a 13% owner, but you don't know who
Who-
is
who's,
giving
yeah.
him money to purchase shares as well. That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
But getting back to Scott's idea, I like his comment that he mentioned about instead of a power plant, which has been proven to pollute the air, there's a danger with the natural gas going in, and our air quality's poor enough in this city, but the alternative energy makes sense, clean tech, solar, wind. We do have a bright field that down the south side, east-south side, that we get some solar panels. I guess they just recently voted to expand those fields, and battery technologies. And even our president gave billions of dollars worth of credits to companies to try to produce alternative energies rather than the old traditional fossil fuels or gas energy. So I think you're on the money, Scott, on that one, and hopefully we'll see some new technology come our way, cleaner, more efficient, and most of all, safer. I mean, even if you prevent one life, it's well worth going with alternative energy. If, God forbid, anything happened where a similar plant did blow up in Connecticut and several people lost their lives who worked there.
One thing I want to touch upon, as far as energy goes, my understanding is that while there's alternating current and direct current, Thomas Edison was the guy that sort of came up with direct current, and Nikola Tesla, a Serbian American, came along and said alternating current's better, and he built this mechanism. Basically, it was like this. It had like a golf ball looking thing on the top, a Tesla coil, and he built these drawings of harnessing the energy from the Earth's ionosphere and propelling trains, boats, planes, cars with electricity rather than, fossil fuels. And when he went to J.P. Morgan with this idea, this is my understanding. I mean, I wasn't there. I didn't witness it. I didn't have firsthand knowledge of the event. From what I understand, he told J.P. Morgan this, and J.P. Morgan, after he left, after he presented it, looked to his assistant and said, write him a letter. And he said, his assistant said, what about? And he said, goodbye. And they went on to say that this guy wanted to milk the cow for free. And, Thomas Edison had a nice little racket with, you have these components here, you have these components here. And what was the thing? The fire station was the first in the country from Brockton?
Yeah, and the first light bulb, I believe, in right here in Brockton by Thomas Edison.
So it's interesting, it all sort of ties in. So here we have this big, banking monster deciding, we can't make any money off of this, so we're not going to go with it. And, it's like history repeating itself. And what I'm trying to get to is there was a movement at the State House that sort of died in committee about divesting from fossil fuels. I think we also need to divest from fraudulent banking entities that, foreclose upon people fraudulently, throw them out onto the street, create this, destroy the cohesive family unit, and, thrust upon the economy all this desolation unnecessarily. And I don't know, there's a lot going on. It's a lot for anybody to understand.
Right, and
Another thing about gas, the governor came out with a report that with the price of gas, natural gas dropping, demand is going way up. And the
Right.
pipes in Massachusetts are not big enough for the demand that
Right.
it's gonna come. So and they said it'll be years before the pipes will be able to. So if you're gonna have that problem, and you're talking about using a lot of gas down there
Right.
in the power plant, so
Yeah, I just
That's
don't
another
see it
problem. There's too many problems
benefiting
with
the
it.
city
Yeah, there's too many problems.
economically. I mean, as we discussed a million times, the devaluations in property values, assessed property values anywhere near there. My son's house included that he just purchased this past year, and it's not going to be a big job creator just to build it, and then there's only like 3-4 people that man it, and we're not guaranteed the power goes out in the national grid in Connecticut to be sold to the highest bidder. And, they say it's going to generate, I believe, $4 million a year in revenues, whatever the number they throw
yeah, but
around.
then, like you say, the devaluation.
Yeah, we'll offset that.
We'll offset
right? And
that.
then you got the safety issue, which is most important of any. Brockton is just not a spot for it. It should
No.
be in a rural community. But let's get back to Scott. I realize I've seen you many times carrying a book around with the United States Constitution. You have a lot of political people from the President of the United States, I believe.
Nah, he didn't sign it
He didn't
yet.
sign it, but you did see him. But
I've shook his hand a couple of times, and
but you've had senators, congressmen, local politicians sign the United States Constitution, and you're probably, anyone I've met in the past, I think you're more well-versed on the United States Constitution than anyone I've ever talked to. And I bring up that point because there's a few amendments here that I'd like to discuss. One interesting one you provide us with is the 11th Amendment that was written to protect the government from potential lawsuits. I find that very interesting because our mayor is threatened. I mean, it seems like everyone's suing everyone today. The mayor was suing the city council. The city council was suing the power plant. The power plant's suing them. There's talk about lawsuits from the people with the desalinization plant. But, I brought up a case, too, about a lawsuit when I was a Plymouth County Charter Commissioner for a couple of years. The state had rented all the county properties, the courthouses in Brockton and throughout the county, and they never paid the county rent. They owed like millions of dollars in back rent. So the county brought it to court. The court ruled in favor of the county, and then the state was supposedly to pay the county the money that in back rent. They said, try collecting it from us. We don't have the money. So, I mean, when they use this, like some of the people running for office, some of your competition, the Councilor Lodge and the mayor himself says, well, we're afraid DSEL will sue us if we try to stop payment, that the power plant will hold a $65 million lawsuit overhead. I mean, I've told the mayor a number of times, I said, you think there's gonna be a court in the land that's gonna rule in favor of a private company paying, the city paying a private company $65 million? It's ridiculous, and Scott clarified it by this 11th Amendment.
Well, that's another point besides the 11th Amendment. This business wants to come in and do business, and it just wants to, it's willing to financially ruin the city in the process of doing business with the city. That just doesn't sound like good business to me. I don't know.
Yeah, and then we're in the baseball business, the conference center business, the water business. I mean, none of these things are panning out. It's again, it's like a white elephant or a political albatross is hanging around our neck, and the taxpayers are always bailing every failed project out.
If you get out of the desal contract, start charging Stonehill the right amount of money, in the baseball stadium, you'll save the city $8 million a year.
Right.
Now, why don't they do this? And I honestly believe that it's got something to do with that 13%.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
It
everybody,
could.
I mean, the mayor, the CFO, the Main Street manager, and the city solicitor all said that they breached the contract.
Right.
Now, the city solicitor says, well, they didn't breach it enough.
Right. Well.
I'm saying that's like you going home and your wife and saying, I'm pregnant, but I'm not pregnant enough to have a baby.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, they breached it, end of story,
Right.
but they still will not get out of that.
Well-
And I believe Mr. Conan is behind that.
Yeah, like we commented on many shows over the past 2 years, the inside wheeling and dealing, who's benefiting only a select few at the expense of the majority of taxpayers. And crime is just out of control right now in this city.
The city's crime
I mean,
ridden.
it's just unbelievable. There's shootings every day and stabbings and I just read a statistic that robbery is down in the city, but I don't know where they pull these statistics. The one statistic I just read is our city just made it to the #2 spot of the most violent crime-riddled city in the Commonwealth of Mass.
It's always between Brockton and Chelsea.
Right, and it was like alarming statistics that it was 1 out of every 24 people victims of violent crime, and that's reducing it to your own neighborhood, as I made a statement before. So Scott, what are some of the main points that you want to get across to your constituency out there, and what would you like to tell the people why they should vote for Scotty Hall? By the way, you have a nice catchy ring to your campaign. I've seen your slogan. I'm sure we'll see a couple signs out there. You have the militiaman with the musket and the 13 colonies. That's where it all started here, right in our backyard in New England, and the Tea Party rebellion. And I like your slogan. You know what they say, you can't beat Scotty Hall, like City Hall. So what would you like to talk about? We got about 4 minutes left in the show. And
Well-
why don't you look into the camera and tell the people some of your hot topics and what you'll do if you're elected.
Well, I was just looking up the case law, the state of Washington, Superior, Court of Washington, some suit. I wish I had the, all the stuff in front of me. I don't. But it's out of Washington, and basically, with the Supreme Court saying you can sue the government for jurisdictional matters and things like that, but you can't sue the government for money.
Right.
I just want to make that point before I...
Yeah, and I think many times today, people using scare tactics. Every year we hear in the budget, there'll be more police, fire layoffs. Now the latest is the CFO to certify $13 million needed to repair our infrastructure with some of the old water pipes and to purchase copiers. He's calling for a partial override of 2.5, Proposition 2.5, or he won't certify that new $13 million appropriation. So, I mean, this mayor broke his vow to us. He went up on taxes twice, not once, but twice. He's only been mayor for 2 years. He went up on taxes his first year, when he said he wasn't, for $500,000 to pay for the legal fees to fight the power plant. And ironically, he's for the power plant, so that one is mind-boggling to me.
Let me make one point on that. He went up on the taxes 3 times.
Right, with the,
Because when they reevaluated the houses, the city got another 2.4 million.
right,
So I had, talking to one of the city officials, he says, oh, well, he only went up X amount of dollars, 500,000. I said, no, he didn't. He went up 2.4 million because,
right.
I asked him right out, are you paying more taxes or less? He said, I'm paying more. If he really wanted to keep the taxes down, he would have reimbursed the people,
Right.
or cut the tax rate back.
Yeah,
so
I
that the
agree.
taxes
I mean,
went
we
up.
need a strong mayor, we need strong leadership. We need someone to say to Mr. Condon, hey, you're not the mayor, I'm the mayor, you work for me. Okay, we're not going up in taxes, but no, the mayor succumbs to him, his threats, okay, and they're going up the full 2.5% in tax evaluations on our properties. Plus, he's calling for an additional override for the 13 million needed for infrastructure repairs. So Scott, we got about 2 minutes left, I believe. So why don't you, make an ending statement why the people should vote for Scotty Hall as their next counselor at large?
All right, so one other thing, I don't really look at it as competing against other candidates. We're all just offering our services as a collective to try and solve problems. I'm definitely a problem solver. I'm looking to solve problems within the city. I don't like the desal plant. I just want I'm not a good salesperson either, by the way. So I'm not trying to sell myself or fool anybody into selling myself.
Well, you're honest and
Yeah,
and
you
open.
can I trust myself to do the right thing. So hopefully you trust me to do the right thing. Me to you, you can trust me.
And there'll
to
be
do
a
the right thing.
website that you're going to be working on? so
Yeah, I'm
people
working
can
on it. I
tune
mean,
into it?
I'm burning the candle at both ends. I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm trying to, eventually, I'm a website designer, but I don't even have my own website yet,
Well, that's sort of like the plumber whose
Yeah.
pipes leak in his house or the mason whose
Yeah, I'm working
brick
on it.
walls
There's-
falling down.
I have other priorities, there's a lot of other pressing
Right.
issues going on in my life right now. So I don't give it top priority. I'll get to it though. It'll be funny too, I guarantee that. There'll be some
Well, I see the
interesting things.
right. I see the first debate will be, I believe, September 9th, right?
Yep.
That's my 62nd birthday. Well, we have 1 minute left.
All right, real
So-
quick, I just want to say too, the desalination plant, how much of that money could have been spent towards the 70 teachers that were laid off?
Yeah, public safety as well.
Like
hiring
half
more police.
half of the money we spent this year
That's-
could have been paid
That's
for all of the
that's
teachers?
That's the $122 million question.
All right, so
So-
what's up with that? And I promised the constituent to talk about this. We have a $172 million annual school budget, and we don't, I see you, Bill, you don't have to keep doing this, so chill. All right, $172 million school budget. We put all of that money into not really plowing the sidewalks. We need to plow the sidewalks every winter. Someone told me to plow the sidewalks. We need to plow the sidewalks every winter. If we really care about the children, we'll do that. And you cut me
Very
off.
good. Well, we wish you the best of luck.